Welcome to Pluribus and the officially unofficial podcast for Pluribus on Apple TV Plus. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And we are back one last time. To watch one last episode. It's season 1, episode 9, the finale. La Chica o el Mundo, which, the girl of the world. It's even I, with my Carol-like limited understanding of Spanish, can translate that one. And this is the choice that Carol's left with in this episode, and makes in this episode, I guess. Aaron, what'd you think of this one?
Vince Gilligan got us Merry Christmas, everybody. A late Christmas present. Well, we're all hoping for a stocking full of more Pluribus. I thought this was a great episode. It's another one where, especially with the large crate at the end, it feels like Vince Gilligan kind of painting himself into a corner. They really put a lot of rules and a lot of timelines and a lot more information. Like, I think seeing the Peruvian girl get subsumed by the hive was interesting and told me a lot in terms of, like, I don't know. I got it. It was a nice reminder of how, what I think the reading of that scene is how you're supposed to keep in mind how manipulative the Pluribi are about their own status.
Oh yeah. I
was impressed that the eggs are here. We're not going to have to worry about what the hell's going on with those and all the theories. And, there's a couple of, some people are really obsessed with the idea of Zosha carrying some kind of stem cell baby. Mm-hmm. But other than the details of how they're actually culturing those cells, I thought that was interesting. And Carol really wanted to make things like, Carol thought that, I don't know what to think, what this says about Carol, but Carol thought that if she could retain her own independence and live in this paradise-like bliss with Zosha forever, that she was content with the world. Mm-hmm. And the second she found out that it was going to end for her, suddenly she wants to save the world again. Like I said, I found out so many disturbing things about the Pluribus and our heroine in this episode. Sure. and Manny. It's really incredible. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I really like this one too. To me, it was always going to be a volatile combination between the two of them, especially, and I guess, like, I will say I was surprised by Carol's sort of reaction retroactively last episode. That kiss meant a lot more, changed a lot more for her than I thought. If I'm taking everything on face value here, and I prefer to do that when I'm dealing with Gilligan, she really just fell for Zosha. Once they're making breakfast together, that's it. They're just a couple in her mind. This is not some ploy to learn more information, get closer to them. So I was a little surprised by that, but now that I've recalibrated, I will say I was really thrilled by the Manusos Carol interactions here, because to me that's what this episode is mostly about. It's about these characters. Who are they? Who's going to bend? Who's going to break? Who's going to change the other person or themselves? And how is that going to happen? And I think it's really interesting the way it did. She kind of brings Manusos around to her way of thinking by the end of this episode. He's still on mission, but his mission has slightly tweaked. Instead of I hate these people and they're evil and I'm going to kill them all, it's now, I think we can put things back to how they were. And he's trying to do it perhaps without killing these people, giving them warnings about things that might kill a bunch of them, and trying to figure this out. And Carol, for her part, is not convinced by anything that Manusos has done. She is simply changing her own mind over the course of this episode. And that was the real difference between them. One of them has the power to change another person's mind, and the other can only change their own mind.
Yeah, I guess that's the interesting thing, is Manusos is not as bloody minded as I thought he would be. And I don't know that because But I guess the big difference between him and Carol is at the end of the day, he thinks that if we can't not return these people to the way they were, that he's almost got like a Walking Dead zombie philosophy, which they're better off being put out of their misery. Where Carol's like, I would like to return the world the way it was. But if it's the difference between like genociding all of these other people and, you know, and returning the world back to like, what, 12 people now? Or, you know, not getting my way, but having some form of humanity continue to persist on. She prefers she prefers the latter and he prefers the former, you know? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also interesting because the more I think about it, the more it's like Carol thinks about the world in terms of how it impacts herself, and Manny seems to be much more principled.
Yeah.
Like, the world should be this way, and I'm going to follow that plan no matter what. But even he's a little flexible, because I noticed he wasn't living out of his ambulance when Carol arrives at the end of the episode. So he's gotten, you know, some kind of circumspect. I have to use the tools of my enemy to defeat the enemy. I have to usurp their property. And
for sure, I think that line about, you know, is that your ambulance outside? That really... Right.
And he's like, well, I got an IOU for it, but, you know, like we talked about that. You know, that's the Dumb and Dumber idea. That's like, oh, well, I can spend as long as I say I'm going to put it back to right. And
yeah,
I do think I wonder if we'll have an episode next year where we show the 2 weeks that Manusos went through where he's trying to sleep in his ambulance, and, you know, then he realizes he needs a book and he's got to go to the library, and the library's all secure now, right? So got to break in. Sure. And just like him just like where, you know, this with his like Carol can just whatever she can justify in her mind, she can justify, right? But Manusos with his stricter moral code, how does he make those accommodations with himself? We don't get to see any of them. You know, we see a man who's so stubborn he'd rather die of a tree infection than accept help from, you know, this alien other, and yet he is living in someone else's house, eating someone else's food, and doesn't see much as maybe he's got a journal in the kitchen that says I ate one can of refried beans,
sure,
and peaches and all that, and maybe he's keeping a tab. But like I would like to see that. And I think, and the other thing is, I guess the atom bomb. Well, what do you think the atom bomb is there for? Because that's obviously the bait. If you get to the end of this season and you're like, I don't know if I want to see more Pluribus. You know, Carol rocking out the Conquistadora as she reveals that she now has an atomic weapon. That's a pretty fucking good hook.
Oh yeah.
What's her deal?
I mean, I guess there's one big question I have to ask before I can answer that one, and it is she being flippant there, or is she actually in possession of an atomic bomb? This could be a joke, but I think it's way more interesting if it's not. So I want to go down that road, and I mean, it could be a fail safe. Like, look, if they come at me with some, you know, canister of something for me to huff or whatever, I'm going to pull the ripcord here, and I'm just going to blow myself up because I want nothing to do with the Pluribus. I do not want to become one of them.
Yeah, it's like a dead woman switch, you know, like, hey, if I see you coming with, or if I see any contrails in the air, I'm just going to turn this and two unique, distinct. You'll be responsible for the murder of two unique, distinct organisms. Maybe that would back them off, because that's what I got. The question is, we know that their biological impulse can be restrained by some of their other principles, like, you know, their non-interference seems to. It's like, hey, if we can't get stem cells from you without a painful procedure, or any kind of thing would violate your bodily autonomy, then we can't do it. But we can grab eggs and we can do all this other stuff. Like, would Zosha be like walking up to Carol with the thermos of Pluribus steam, tears in her eyes, knowing that she's about to be vaporized, and but they just can't stop. Maybe. You know, there's nothing about their code that would stop them. It's all about, well, your code's got to give. I think that's really because I don't know if that's a back them off type of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know that the Pluribus would. Yeah, like if they want to bone Carol's RNA that bad, then they're going to be thinking with, is that the littlest head? Your an RNA sequence.
It doesn't get much smaller than that.
Yeah, I'd imagine even the most the least endowed individual would have a penis measuring in microns at least, you know.
Right. If you're measuring your penis in adenine or guanine, you've got problems.
The real thing is, do you measure from the top or the bottom? That's, you know, that can, who knows how many microns you can get away with that. What were we talking about? Yeah, I'm thinking that Carol thinks this is a dead woman switch, and I wonder if the Pluribus will even care. And it's got to be more complicated than that, because season 2 can't end with Carol, or could it? Could season 2 end with Carol being annihilated in nuclear fire with Manny, and that galvanized Lakshmi, and it's like, it's actually been about Lakshmi the whole time? Yeah, right.
Because, like, this is Carol's show, right? Like, Carol is not at risk of ever leaving this show. I'll say she could take a different form. She could do whatever, but it is Carol's show. And as much as I like watching Manusos, I don't think it would be the same without her. And yeah, I just don't see any chance of that happening. She might, you know, be joined horribly against her will or something, and then Manusos could potentially pull her out of that.
Save her, yeah.
Got the breadcrumbs for that happening here in this episode, but
yeah,
she's not going to leave. She's there for the long haul.
And it does seem like, you know, a lot of people had some, you know, inklings of what was going on, like that the idea that during the seizure that they're kind of like disrupted from the hive. You know, that was a common. I still don't quite understand what triggers, like why Manusos can take one of them at knife point and they're chill, and then just jump scaring them. But like, I was also thinking, that's like, have you heard of the fainting goats? There's a species of like little goats that if their startle reflex is to just like freeze and literally fall over, like they go. And it's funny and it's kind of cute, and I can't imagine what I imagine it's the same kind of possum reflex where if a carnivore thinks you're already dead, it triggers its instinct to not eat you. It's got to be some extreme form of that, because but it's like that. Look, the evolution has found the way to make a creature be startled and completely incapacitated for several minutes. Because evolution's not clean like that. So I think that's interesting. I like the rating, but I was trying to get to where it's like, it does seem that my dream that I said like a couple weeks ago, it's like, I really need to see someone become part of the hive and then break part of the hive, retain their individuality or regain their individuality, and then say what is preferable or not.
Yeah. And you are way closer to seeing that now than we were last episode.
Yeah, and I think the thing that they got in the beginning with what's her name, Marisuka, Kusabayu, is really chilling, because to me the whole point of that long scene is to show that the entire village and them going about their traditional ways and, you know, continue. It was all just a show to Kisumayo so she wouldn't be freaked out about how much her life is going to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that realization made me start thinking about other things. Like, everything we've seen is what the hive wants us to see. Like, oh, we're all sleeping at night in big puppy cuddle puddles, and oh, how sweet that is. But what are you doing during the like? It's possible that everybody in ABQ is just putting on a show for Carol, because the reality of their life is like, you know, they clock in for an 18-hour shift at the laboratory where they're doing, you know, their human centrifuging, and then they go to like little 1 by 1 foot closets and sleep standing up the rest of the. But it's like, whatever the joining is like, I no longer believe the joined when they tell me about it, because they seem to go to any length to lie, fool, or cajole a human into joining with them.
Yeah, to manipulate them, certainly. I do still think it's a rule that they can't lie outright. But, manipulation doesn't require lying.
Sure. Yeah. Like, again, I think I think it's a form of mistruth to keep Kisumai. But I also I can understand. It's like, well, why would they? They're doing it to make her feel comfortable. That's what they do. They do it for everybody. But like that doesn't seem like such a nice thing anymore. It seems much more of a manipulation thing.
Yeah, I think that is part of it. It's manipulative, but I also think they believe it. I think these people, as part of this collective Pluribus, are happier by their own measure. Now, whether that's influenced by, the feelings that being part of that, being joined, just automatically give you, and you don't have any choice but to feel happier. I don't know. I mean, I assume that's what it is.
I do think them listing all the happy chemicals that your body makes that can be manipulated by drugs and chemicals and other things, even other people's actions, is telling us pretty strongly, because that's the thing. It's like they're happy by their own rights. I agree that it appears to me that a joined pluribi would self-report that I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
But is it because they're having their own drives and needs and things fulfilled, or is it because they are being chemically induced to be happy while they're hijacked to fulfill another being's desires? And I feel like I'm much more in that camp than I was in the first few episodes, where this definitely feels more sinister, and all the nice stuff feels like, the great efforts a pitcher plant takes to make itself look like a flower and smell like what an insect will, so the bug will step into it and get pulled inside and dissolved. Like, it's evolved to be appealing and pleasant and colorful, and everything appeals to your senses because it's trying to digest you.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think I frustrated some people in how, like, I'm open-minded about the hive. It's like, I don't know. This could be better. I've never lived in a billions wide hive mind. That might be pretty sweet. I can see ways that could be pretty sweet, but
I mean,
if that's the case, then sell the people on that lifestyle. Here's an idea, Carol. Say, hey, I just want to volunteer to be a pluribi. But you can't commute. You're just gonna tell me like what to do. If I was just another pluribi, what would I be doing today? And I want to do that. I want to do where would I be assigned right now? I want to go there and do. And like, I bet it wouldn't be very enjoyable.
Probably
just a pluribi's daily life without the so. Yeah, I guess I've learned to start worrying and hate the pluribi. That's where I'm at.
All right, well, maybe we should start worrying about this episode.
Yeah. So we begin with Kusamayu. It's 71 days and change since the joining, and she is presented with a research breakthrough that will finally allow her to become part of the hive mind, with great ceremony and fanfare from her home village. As soon as she's joined, the village rolls up and all the people move away. Its purpose now evidently have been fulfilled. That's me editorializing at the end there, but I couldn't help but think that this is like a show village. This is back in Indianapolis on the north side, way north side, there is a place called Connor Prairie. And I know a lot of places have it, but people, historical reenactors live there, and they make soap and candles from animal tallow, and they churn butter, and they spin wool, the thread, and all the other things. And it's but it's not real. They're pretending to be an old settlement so that you can get an idea of what that was like. And that's what Kusumayu's village is here. It's just it's a Connor Prairie. It's a put on. All this stuff is happening. All this food is being produced. The fires being made. The clothes are being worn. The songs are being sung just for her benefit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. As much as, Zosha is living with Carol just for Carol's benefit, it's all manipulative, but it's also like, it's all requested. too, at least on Carol's side. Like, we don't know about Kusumayu. She maybe said, hey, I would be a lot more comfortable with this joining. I want to join, but could we make it a thing that's significant to me? Could you sing some songs? Could you do these routines?
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know if she's asked for this or
We
if this is
don't.
a manipulation, purely a manipulation.
But like, unless she literally said during the joining, hey, I want you guys to live in this village and I don't want anything to change. Like, I don't know. Is that the deal they gave her? Or it seems to me like the Hive is much better just being sly. Just like, hey, we're just going to go along with people. Like, you know, like Zosha knew the entire time that she's hanging out with Carol at the end of this episode and in a blissful state, that she's working against Carol's interests. And Carol would be furious if she found out about it, but she does it anyway. I don't know. I just, there's something sinister about just like, I guess the sinister thing is like that regardless of why they're doing it, they are destroying all of human culture.
Oh yeah.
And replacing it with this unhuman culture, you know? And it was something chilling about the second that she lost consciousness, they just stop singing and they just sit there and they look at her, you know, like again, it's like, imagine if, you know, someone was with you and they're like, oh, I had an amazing time with you tonight, Jim. Oh, I can't wait to do it again. And they're big smiles and they got you feeling so good. And then as soon as you turn your back to walk to your car at the end of the night, their just face goes dead. Like that's our worst fear, right? That someone is just placating us, putting us on, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's what the Hive does.
Yeah, and we're supposed to feel that way. Definitely. I think the other thing this scene is doing is showing us that not only is it a possibility that they could change Carol, it's a foregone conclusion that eventually they will. Like when you pair it with the fact that they're got her stem cells and they're working on generating them, and when they do, they will absolutely be able to turn her. There's no, because we've been questioning like, oh, are they actually going to be able to make this work? Could this be a thing? Now we know for sure. You know, that card is back on the table to play.
Did you think that
in that regard?
Do you think that her watching the plane arrive was the showrunners kind of hoping that we would think that was an aerosol, like, you know, oh, they're dispersing it through the air? Because when she's looking up there and she's like, oh, it's any time now, it's like, oh, it's been, but so it's like, that's the thing. It's in this case, they were very keen to respect Kusumayu's autonomy. It's like, oh, are you ready? And if she's like, oh, I need a minute, they probably give it to her. But like, they're also telling us that this is an aerosol thing, and we did it once. We could we could just have Pluribus come and hooked us up to her air conditioning system. She would never know it. She would just join.
Absolutely.
And I think that's exactly what will happen. And I do wonder also, it's kind of funny because like they've got Kusumayu, and they've got Carol. I wonder how many of the other have given them permission to start the research. Is like, because Lakshmi seems like she would be a real candidate for that. Maybe some of the others, but because like it would be ironic if one of the ones that are most steadfast against joining them, they have an in with those eggs, and how many of those people so it's like, let's say they only have 2 or 3 they're working on. Like the entire Earth is working on cracking Carol, right? Whereas if they had all 12 or 13, there's something funny about Carol. And we talked about this a couple episodes ago about how there's as much emotional payoff as there is plot payoff. Because when Carol realizes what's going to be her undoing, Ray Seahorn gives this amazing nuanced performance of her feeling all that, like, oh my God, this thing I did. And I don't even think that Carol wanted children. Like, this feels like something that she was doing for hell. I mean, I could be wrong. Carol doesn't seem like the type of person that would think she's a good mother, you know, and would think she's capable of that. But it's like, oh, you know, I just really want to make that thing coming back and being the thing that undoes her with like just 5 seconds of emoting was incredible.
And there's so much betrayal in that too, because I think, as I understand it anyway, we find out that when Carol was off having her eggs frozen, Helen was planting devices in her cabinet, her liquor cabinet, to track how often she's drinking. Right there's like the opportunism there from Helen to take that advantage for her own use and not tell her. And like, yeah, there's so much emotion wrapped up in it. And Ray Seahorn just nails that scene, man. Both of those scenes.
I can't wait to talk about that because there's a lot of implications there. I want to return back to what's going here in Peru, because I noticed that the Pluribi were not using any ear protection working next to planes in this episode. And I was trying to think, have I ever seen them worry about ear protection when they're not being seen by another person? And I don't think I have, but also it seems like they pretty religiously use helmets and other safety devices. But then I started thinking, maybe they only put a show of wearing protection that they actually care about. Like, I don't know that a Pluribus gives a shit about if they go deaf. Why would they? There are a lot of
uses for people who are deaf in a society that can just sort of swap people in and out skill-wise, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, you went deaf?
You get brain damaged.
Right. We'll put you somewhere else that doesn't require hearing. No problem.
Yeah. You get brain damaged in your so they wear helmets and all that stuff. And maybe, I don't know, it seems like humans really need their sight. I mean, obviously I think they could work with it if you were blinded, but I just wonder if that's another indication that, because they've been so careful to have them cover their ears or put ear protection in, and having this guy work on the ramp, no ears, was, I thought, kind of kooky. Also, there's just a lot of sinister encoding of this, like the village all kind of surrounding her with her and this goat pen. You know, she got this baby goat. I couldn't help but think of, lambs to the slaughter, right?
Sure.
I know it's lamb and goats are not the same thing, but
yeah, I noticed the goat kind of runs after her after the joining. It felt a little sad. Like maybe this goat had just lost, if not a caretaker, then even a friend,
Right. Yeah. And and I was wondering, I was like, ooh, are they going to go with this goat, like not refusing to leave her side? But no, I think it's just literally like a anthropomorphic Shane moment where it was just running after her, like, Kusi. Yeah, I guess that's so. The other question is, so if I'm right on my theory that this village was kept alive to just make Kusi Mayu comfortable with it, can we then extract that all of the villages we saw that were just doing village stuff, that Menusa, that those were carefully constructed simulacrums of how the city these cities behave, to kind of like lull him into a sense of, oh, maybe things aren't that different?
Because does he also own a laundromat? Like, I don't know what possible feelings you get from watching people washing clothes. I personally don't get any.
But you would see that, like, this is a normal, it's like they're not like carving human flesh, and they're like, this is a normal thing that humans do and they've always done, and they're friendly.
Whereas the entire city of Cincinnati comes together downtown once a week to wash all their clothing in the same place. Yeah. Totally normal. That's how it goes here.
But it can be weirder. They could be all dyeing it purple, or like I said, they could be carving up human bodies and waving and smiling, but they're doing something kind of, but that's the only, because like everything that the Hive says about efficiency flies in the face of their South American operations, where they're just letting people hang out in rainforests and in villages, and they're not doing cutting edge scientific research. Or maybe they are.
Yeah.
They airdropped a complete science lab to every village of at least 50 people on Earth.
Maybe.
But I will say she seems happy when she wakes up. Definitely. So there's that. Okay, do we have anything else we want to say about that scene?
No.
All right, we're gonna catch back up to it. Zosha and Carol, we see following drone footage of Manusos driving to her home. Zosha doesn't think he would hurt Carol, but she thinks it's best if the others gave their meeting a wide berth. Manusos arrives shortly after, and their initial meeting is just as prickly and fraught as you'd think it'd be. his paranoia struggling against her greater comfort with the hive. Eventually, she coaxes him into her home where more trials await. Yeah, this went like exactly how I guess Carol was a little pricklier, but the idea that, you know, Manusos is a guy she doesn't know and he's getting out, you just get essentially a sword strapped to his side. And the way that Zosha delayed in answering the question about whether he's dangerous or not, I think are all things that led to these misunderstandings to happen, these jockeying for power.
Yeah, I do think he's dangerous. Like what Zosha said, I think is accurate. I don't think he's dangerous to Carol, at least while he believes she's not actively impeding his mission. But certainly, I think I will say it sort of surprised me for the Hive for the Pluribus to be like, it's not dangerous to you, implying he could be very dangerous to us. I'm a little surprised that they feel any real threat from him, but then again, the tools that he has, as we've seen through Carol, and we will see later in this episode, could be very dangerous indeed.
That's the thing, is like, I'm, you know, realizing, and we talked about that, like, oh man, Manusos finds out about this power and he's just going to go walking around like some kind of Dr. Manhattan Akira thing where he just looks at someone and says, fuck you, and their heads explode or whatever. He's just going to stride to earth like a god of death. And I think that that's like, maybe they were worried that Carol would be so unregulated that she would do that on accident. But they're saying this guy, like, we've seen the way he mortifies his own flesh. My God, if he took that determination to hurting us, then yeah. I mean, he's capable. He is a dangerous person. He's capable of, like, he's not unprincipled. He's not immoral. He's not necessarily scary, but he is dangerous.
Yeah, to this particular entity, definitely. And I guess, like, the interesting thing is they are still giving him what he wants, you know? So it tells us a little bit more about Pluribus. The Carol's accidentally going to harm them, and they're giving her what she wants. But this is a man who seems out to get them, and still they are giving him everything he needs in order to do so. Right.
We haven't found a limit yet.
No,
that's the thing. Like, I'm predicting that we will one of these days, just because, you know, go back to the DHL guy. To me, that was always not impressing upon us that there's a carte blanche, but there is some kind of continuum where some things are like, hey, get on your knees and give me a blowy right now, would probably be just, yep, it would just happen. All the way to, I want you to distribute all the world's nuclear weapons to all the land masses, and then I want you to wire them up to a button and give it to me. Like, I don't know that they would do that. I think there's some kind of sliding scale of what level of damage they're prepared to absorb and mitigate, and then there's some place where they just be like, no. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the end of this episode,
but I don't know. To me, that's like the DHL guy. It's like, he's like, oh yeah, we do that. Tank, no problem. Hand grenade, a nuke. What if there was an infinite, like, blank check? Why the hesitation? You know?
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And I do wonder, like, the question I have at the end is, yes, they gave Carol apparently an atomic bomb. Would they give Manusos an atomic bomb? Like, does it depend on who, not just, you know, what the request is?
Well, yeah, and that's got to be it, right? Because, like, the Hive has shown that they can treat people differently. Like, they'll leave Carol alone for 40 days and 40 nights. But they, you know, they only do that if they're deemed necessary, and it's deemed necessary by your individual behaviors, right? So, yeah, true. I think that all tracks. I did like how, like, kind of hesitant they both were. You know, like, Carol now is kind of like worried about meeting him, and he's worried about, checking his hair and tucking in his shirt, but he's not even confident enough to go knock on her door, right? Like, he doesn't want to enter her yard without permission. And they instantly get into this pissing match about, you come in here, because he thinks the hive mind is capable of anything. And I mean, it's funny how this so mirrors, everyone else's reaction to Carol. Like, you lunatic. Do you know how many of these people you could have killed? Like,
yeah,
she's literally, this was Carol essentially 58 days ago, but and that's the one thing that bugged me is, like, I was surprised at how little grace that Carol gave Manusos, knowing how she felt about these people, and outside of the charm offensive that they launched last up, how she would still feel about these people. I think so much of that is the way he interacts with her. I mean, the snapping thing, right? Like, I don't speak snap. Yeah. That tells you everything you need to know about how that interaction is going at that time. Mm-hmm. He's just, I guess he's expecting so much here. He's expecting that they'll be 100% on the same page, and they've kind of mapped out what's going on in their heads identically. And he's assuming that, like, everyone behaves the way that he does. And over the course of interacting with Carol, he softens on that. He more, like, adapts rather than, like, bends or breaks to Carol's will. Agreed. It's more like, okay, I'm getting nowhere with this woman doing this thing. I need to change my tactic. I came all this way.
Right. And man, I got to say, I love the running gag in this episode of the phone translating everything, even when you don't really want it to, and
yes,
stuffing it in the sewer. It's just so good.
I've had that exact, like, the fact that if it's still translating when they don't want it to, and it's in the sewer and it's translating and it's pissing them off. I've had that exact same experience where, like, I was having it, I'm trying to learn how to speak German, and you can put your Google Home Assistant in translation mode, and then, but it doesn't, like, just translate. It's like, that's the thing, is you have to translate something, and instead of it just doing that one thing, like, Home started just flipping the translation mode. And it's like, well, you can tell me to stop translating, but you do that, and then it just says stop translating, and it's like, you, and I got in this loop with it, and it's like, I want to choke you to death, Google Home Assistant, but I can't. And me getting angry is just going to lead to, I don't know how. So you gotta, it's just watching him master his anger, because it's like, what are you getting even angry at? It's like getting angry at, I don't know, at the sky for raining on you. I mean, you can do it, but you'll be literally raging against nothing. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's a great, like, just what they do with it is funny and enjoyable, because it's also part of the plot. Like, they need this device. It's not just there for the gag. It's there for several purposes. So it works really well.
They got some good dialogue here too, where like, why would they help two humans come together to destroy them? And Carol's like, whoa, destroy? Who said destroy? And he's like, well, they're evil. They've stolen everyone's soul. And if we can't fix them, they're better off dead. And Carol's like, no, they're not evil. They won't even kill an ant. And I thought his comeback was, is it not evil to value an ant the same as a man?
Yeah. I think
I agree with that. But I also know there's people on this planet that don't. Like, there's people who wholeheartedly argue that an ant is intrinsically worth as much as a human being. And there's a couple things where it's like, okay, like, is a whale worthy of moral consideration? Is a gorilla? Is a chimpanzee? But, like, when you get down to, like, ants and back, I just don't give a fuck. But that's a moral argument being made in a literal vacuum of space that the Earth is going through.
Like, objectively, he's wrong. Like, no, it's not evil. There's, unless, I mean, evil being a construct of humanity, I guess, yes, he's right. But absent that, there is no more value in a human being than there is in an ant, than there is in a speck of carbon. Like, then there is in, I don't know, a rock sitting on a mountainside. Like, ultimately none of it matters. It's not
Right.
important in any way that the humans can create art or shape the universe to look like what they want it to look like. All of it is dust in the wind eventually. So who cares? But as a human, yeah, I absolutely agree with him. Like, I would never kill a human being. I've killed many ants intentionally.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's you're right. Intrinsically, there's no worth to anything, but humans, have this. We've been cursed with consciousness, and we can value things. We seem to value our own consciousness because I guess at the end of the day, an ant is never going to be able to process its existence or non-existence. And it's like, if you asked it, hey, do you want to keep living or dying? It really wouldn't have an opinion on that either way, where people do. Mm-hmm. But it's all very arbitrary, but I liked it. And then also like how perceptive he is, where he's like, well, wait a second, you said that they abandoned you and now they came back. Well, why did they? And she lies to him. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like what Vince is trying to say is that everyone lies to everyone and everyone puts on a show to everyone. Everyone tries to put on this face. And I think that the pluribi in mass are no different is what I think the thesis is here.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it. I will say I was very impressed with Manusos's sort of catching up here very, very quickly, right? Because he knows nothing about them other than what channel there is a signal on. He knows nothing. And he is, by the end of this episode, I feel caught up to where Carol is simply by asking the right questions, right? This is a little bit of the frustration with Carol over the season, is she's not asking the right questions to accomplish the mission we want her to accomplish.
Yes.
He is just on top of it. He's now going to become the world's foremost human expert on every topic related to electromagnetism in order to get in there. He's just very curious, very inquisitive, very smart, very determined. He's dangerous to them.
The guy's not neurotypical. His mom, maybe he's so mad at his mom because she just took inhuman quantities of Tylenol, and it's led him to become deeply autistic and able to like not need human companionship and be able to throw themselves into the minutia of circuit manuals that are written in a different language that he has to translate. By the way, I also love that. I was fully prepared to think that Manusos was going to speak fluent English because of the dream logs, but getting here and it's like, shit, they both don't have enough to really get by and to the way that they need to start working together. But like that added a whole other level of the hyper focus. The fact that you probably got a good grounding in radio frequencies and stuff, but he's learning all this stuff about crystallography and he's having to look up terms because he doesn't understand the loop as it's like oh my god, my brain just shrivels up and dies at the scope of the project that he's contemplating.
Yes,
and he's just doing it, man. He's just plowing in and starting day we're just doing it. Exactly.
Yeah, and I believe he can get there too. Like that's the thing. Like humans with any kind of brain can learn this stuff. It just requires determination and time.
I will say this. I have a hard time with Manusos, both writing it down and saying it. So from here on out, I am now referring to him as Manny. Okay. We got it. Hopefully Manusos turning him into Manny is not horribly culturally offensive. If it is, let me know and I'll readjust in season 2. But in the meantime, Manny looks for bugs in Carol's home and annoys her with his brusque, direct manner. To her surprise, Manny finds a device in her liquor bar. She calls Zosia, outraged that the others are spying on her, but finds the device was actually planted by her wife, Helen, some 14 years ago. This revelation really takes it out of Carol, and she leads Manny to a neighbor's house for him to spend the night. And as soon as she leaves, Manny dials up Carol's weirdo for a little chat.
I really love, I mean, there's, the sort of bending of Manusos's interactions with her. And There's also some like sly smiles for Nusos as he realizes what kind of person he's dealing with here and her particular quirks, and he's starting to like get her a little bit more. And her pushback, I think he likes it a little bit. You know, when she's like that snap thing and waves the finger, he's like,
I demand respect.
Right. But there's a little bit of him doing like the Yoda thing on Dagobah with Luke's tools and whatnot, like digging, rooting through them, throwing things around. He's there's a little bit of that in there, which is funny.
I think that also I don't know, let's also talk about the main event here, which is Carol finding out that Helen. What do you think happened 14 years ago? Like, because I have a pretty clear cause and effect and thing I think happened, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. What do you think happened? Why did Carol put this thing on the door? I'm sorry, why did Helen?
I mean, I took it as just like, I don't know. I haven't thought thoroughly through that. I haven't really sat with that for very long. Just watched this episode not too long ago.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm curious to hear what you think. It seems like you have an idea.
So, like, I'm not 100% sure, but it maybe stands to reason that you're not supposed to drink or do drugs when they're harvesting eggs because, you know, that could affect the quality of the thing. And regardless of that, maybe, you know, with a lesbian relationship, I'm going to hopefully not offensively extrapolate that there must be some discussion about who's going to carry the child. And if your spouse is an alcoholic and they say, well, I could do that, I could sober up for X amount of time, I could see testing them to see if they're going to, because the thing about, you know, the drinking rarely is the actual problem. It's the lack of honesty about when and how and where it's happening. So I feel like, you know, she might be like, well, I want to carry the child, or maybe Helen can't and she would have to, but she would have to get sober, obviously, for that. So you don't have fetal alcohol syndrome. And Helen's just like, I need to be sure that I can trust you because I do trust Carol, but I don't trust the bottle. And like, there's something that's very ironic to Carol about all of this, that the egg freezing that led to her, you know, just kind of crisis point in a relationship. The fact that the egg freezing is now going to be the cost of her loss of identity, and how everything about the story tells me that Carol never wanted to be a mother, never wanted to have kids. There's just so much, I guess it wouldn't be delicious irony. It'd be bitter irony that she's processing through all this.
Yeah. I agree. That's all there. I don't know if I necessarily want to jump to she doesn't want kids, never did, but regardless, there's a huge betrayal here. And it's made worse when you realize the timeline, right? They say May 2011 when she was freezing her eggs. This is 14 years, and that device is still there. That device was there till the day that Helen died. Was she using it regularly? Probably. They had a breathalyzer in her car. Like this, the trust, right? The lack of trust there, but also we don't know what kind of relationship it was. There might have been very good reason. It might not have been, I just think you drink a little too much. She might have killed somebody in her car. She might have, like, who knows? I
mean, I don't think that. I think usually, I mean, I guess you can have this done, but like usually a breathalyzer in your car is when the law has gotten involved and said, no, you need a little bit extra help. And I got enough context relationship that and the fact that I just, with these substance abuse issues, it's always a problem with being, you know, because the person drinking too much kind of knows at some level they're drinking too much, or it's become a problem and their spouse is like, can you stop making problems for themselves? And of course, the answer is, what am I, an asshole? But you still need and want to drink. So how do you square that circle? And the great many people are going to go through cycles of deception, self-deception, deceiving others. And and then the recidivism rate of all that stuff is terrifying. So I don't see it as betrayal of Helen, as more of like, I'm willing for you to hurt me but I'm not willing for you to hurt our child. And if you can't be honest about this thing, then I need to know about it. And maybe that's why nothing came of the eggs. Maybe Carol failed these tests and Helen just gave up on it and they never had to talk about like, well, this is obviously going to happen because you can't be sober. Because they've got her in a weird place with their drinking where it's like Helen has removed all the ways that it could be problematic. Like she can't drive. She controls her drinking when she's around fans, it seems. But like, it was a weird relationship they had with alcohol. Is all I can say.
But I'll say I think the betrayal that comes in where there's the secret that Helen has. Yeah. The secret monitoring, right? Like not the honest open talks, not the hey, I we got to get this under control. Let's work together. That kind of thing. Like doing this behind her back and then never telling her, even after, she seemingly is like okay-ish now. She never came clean about it. She never said, yeah, I was monitoring you that time. And now she never will. So like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's definitely like the secrecy of it is what makes it feel like a betrayal. Yeah.
And I think it can hit like Carol, like it can I'm just like trying to take a step back and look at it. And again, we don't know exactly what all happened here and what all is the problem. Imagine we'll get more of that in the future. But so she leads them to the Wilson's house. Did you have a problem with the fact that this house is fully stocked with food?
Yeah, I don't know why it would be, but
the only thing I can think of is there is 2 hours that Zosha had with Carol to prep, and I imagine one of the first things Carol thought of is, well, he ain't sleeping here.
Sure.
So provision one of my neighbor's houses that has, so, but it's like, I don't, he doesn't have to hold my hand in that because again, he gave, there's certainly time to take care of that. Mm-hmm. Could be she's referring to just canned food,
Right.
She doesn't know that I guess it's like, well, she knows he'll eat dog food. So maybe she's like, well, if you got beans and beets and peaches in there, you're going to be like a pig in slop. But she doesn't know he ate dog food.
Right. Right. And I don't think he's ever going to tell
willing to. You don't volunteer that information.
No. The thing that really shocks me, though, is what he does when he's by himself. He calls to speak to Zosha. Like he calls them. That's a huge turnaround for him.
It's gotta be him realizing in some ways that he's been a bit silly going about this, right? Because he's like, oh my God, if I give them any window into my soul, they might be able to flip that. Like and he's honestly being smart from a only what kind of angle, and like this is just could be mental, so like even me asking questions or talking to them could give them, it makes a lot. But now that he's confronted with the fact that like, okay, Carol is against them and she's just and they gave me this tape, and then she's like, have you ever tried talking to them? And he says it's possible, and she still has her independence.
Mm-hmm.
I think
they can't lie,
he's like, they can't lie. Yeah. I feel like I would have been better off if there had been a trip to her whiteboard so she could give him like the basics.
Yeah.
But like, it's pretty, it's pretty obvious, like, especially thinking about back as like, oh, they took me and they fixed me up. And like, if they wanted to, they just could have left me out there to die. And I held him at knife point, and they gave like, he's starting to, I was like, okay, well, maybe it'd be a little bit easier to beat him than I thought it was.
Yeah, I think the calculus has changed a little bit. Like he finds more value in getting information from them now than preserving his principles.
Right.
But he has bent a little bit.
Yeah. And I think, I just think that, I think that there will be people who have a problem with that, because it seems like there is a certain type of person who maybe liked Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul or whatever, but they're just like, this more esoteric stuff just isn't grabbing him, and they're looking for off ramps. And I can see a lot of people like, this is just such a huge change. He went from not even being willing to talk to his people to like he's with Carol for 2 minutes and now he's talking to Zosha. But
so did Carol.
Also, yeah, and it's an interrogation about, because I don't think at this point he even trusts Carol, so he's got to like, like, I think he trusts him or what he tells him but he doesn't trust her about their relationship. So getting Zosha here allows him to interrogate all of that. Should we get to there? Or
yes.
All right. Carol comes to sometime later that evening, hungover, with the Golden Girls theme blaring from her television. She soon sees Zosha's car in Manny's driveway and sprints over, concerned. To her horror, she finds out that Zosha has told him Toto. Everything. And just as she's exploring what the hell that means, Zosha informs her that something's about to happen right before she starts violently seizing.
Yep. Send me another one.
Another round of ammo.
Yeah, this is great, man. The betrayal's never end, right? Like, this is a huge betrayal by Zosha. She just got this news about Helen. Now she's getting her new lover. But she's so naive. She's so dumb about this. Like, she has not got it through her head that she is not special to Zosha. Period. This is not a human being. This is not an individual. You are not having a relationship with this person. You are being manipulated.
And then she's even manipulators, because she's like said, I don't want to hear you say we. It's like, I want you to hide. It's almost like if you were dead set on the person you're with not having any partners before you, and you find out that they actually had 2 or 3 partners, but you want to make it work, so you're like, okay, that's fine, but I just don't want you ever to acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. You're creating a false reality to get around your insecurities. And I think it's also telling this is the second time this has happened.
Yes.
Where like, Kumba tried to steal Zosha. Now this guy's trying to steal Zosha. And like you said, it's almost like she can't process that. Like, I know it's hard for you to understand, but we love him just as much as we do you. She's like, how? He's you even. And I think that's the one thing. How can they love him when they don't know anything about him? Like, it's one thing to love Carol, these other people where you got family members that you could, it's like, I got a good handle on what this person, but how the hell could you fairly say they love Manny unless it's some kind of, you're talking about love and the strict, like, highest platonic ideal.
Either that or...
Which I think they are.
They could be, certainly, but I think it could also be that they love what he will become once he joins them. Like,
it's the potential.
Because there are no individuals within... Yeah. They expect, like, eventually we will convert him just like we did everything, and then he will become part of us and we will love him just as much.
Yeah. And you can see that Carol's kind of somewhat realizing this when she's like, well, you don't even know him. He's a stranger to you, and you're my chaperone.
Right. Which is really, she wants to say, you're my new Helen, but like... Yeah,
you're my person. You're my special person.
Yeah, but that's so silly, and she knows it too. She just...
Yeah.
Like, there's this... I don't know. There's this melding of two ideas in her mind that are completely incompatible. This cognitive dissonance that she's experiencing that she just cannot navigate.
I'm wondering, because like I'm under the assumption when he said she told me everything, that like he has compelled her to tell a brief account of everything that she knows about Carol, and that I did wonder how the hell was she compelled to reveal that when Carol has a burst of anger, starts shouting, they start having, like, what sequence of questions would even lead to that? Oh, I guess it's like, why? Because she did tell him that she talked to the other people and none of them wanted to talk to her. He might have said like, well, why? I guess that's because that's the one thing I'm like, how would he have an avenue to even talk about that? That's something that would be so unobvious to pin it, because he's like, again, held him by that knife point and they didn't do anything weird. So it's like, why would he be like, But that I guess that would be, you know, if he starts priming, why did none of the other survivors like her?
And he also knows that Carol's straight up lying to his face. He probably knows that she asked them to come back now.
She does, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny because
he might know more about Carol and Helen's relationship than maybe even Carol knows at this point.
That's interesting. I almost said last episode when she asked them to power wash to please come back that it's like, that seems stupid. Like, is she that fastidious about, you know, she doesn't seem like she cares about grenade damage and the other stuff, and now I realized that, like, this is a writerly thing, because if Manusos pulls up and sees that please come back and sees, then he's going to know right away. But like, she's trying to keep, I mean, that's the thing. I was like, I guess she could be dangerous to Manusos too.
I mean, she could have just painted WEL before it. Problem solved.
How's that?
Welcome
WEL?
back. I guess he'd be a little confused. Like,
please welcome back. Yeah. And also, you know, Zosha had foreknowledge that things going to happen, which we know that Manny, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the change that we're seeing that he's making about them. Let's go on and move on to Carol rapidly deducing that she's not the source of this latest seizing incident. Instead, she runs over to the neighbor's house where she finds Manny experimenting on a new weirdo. He quickly pulls a ham radio scanner out from his ambulance and consults his radio frequency log for the anomaly he found. Tuning into that frequency, he finds the new signal strange and haunting. As his test subject comes out of the seizure, Manny induces a new one by screaming right into his face. During the Pluribus seizure, Manny attempts to break him out of the hive control with his voice. Carol abruptly ends the experiment with her shotgun, ordering Manny to back away from the Pluribus guy.
Yeah. Wow. This is exciting. The radio signal. I mean, we had kind of guessed that this could be some the frequency that they communicate on. It seems like that is ever more likely the case.
Yeah,
the signal changes. I would say the signal essentially drops out. Like, there's noise and there's a weird signal, but the that sprinkler pattern that you're talking about is gone entirely. Yeah, when they're convulsing. So,
and I'm trying to wonder if I'm supposed to put my science hat on here, because I do not see how there can possibly be enough information to cyclically link 7 billion people transmitted in a single frequency of radio wave. It just seems, but like, I don't know, maybe it's the carrier signal, maybe it's just something like the handshake protocol that you know everybody goes on there and then negotiates a different frequency. But on the other hand, he was going through all the frequencies and he didn't find anything.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a little convenient that he made this leap that quickly?
I guess it depends on what exactly he asked them. Man, I would have loved to hear and see that conversation with Zosha.
Sure.
Because he comes out of it with this idea. So I assume something he heard there connected the dots for him. Not that it's just out of nowhere.
And if I'm putting on my critical hat a little bit, I think it is a little convenient that, you know, because it's that saying is like, if all you've got in a hammer, the world looks like nails. Because it's like, well, if you get the one problem, like, he's a ham radio guy. All the world looks like a ham radio problem. But in this case, he's right.
It's the only tool he has to use, too. It's not like he's got a stockpile of tools. He's got
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's not like a radio. He's not like a Radio Shack guy, and this happens to be the spectrum of that ability. That he is just, as far as we know, a ham radio guy. It's what he does for a hobby, and the way to defeat the aliens might be with his hobby.
Yeah.
Because I wonder, like, now, like, can you just? To me, it seems like you could build a Faraday cage, and
he actually has a book written by Faraday. That EM book. that he's studying. So I assume he might try that at some point, but he's got to get his hands on one of them is the problem. They are giving him a wide berth now like they did with Carol. So,
and if you don't know a Faraday cage, if you've ever looked in your microwave, you'll notice that there's like a metal grid with little holes in it. And those holes are spaced to be half the height of a microwave frequency so that the microwave frequency can't penetrate, you can see in because the visible light is a much smaller frequency wave. So a Faraday cage is essentially built with, you can use a piece of metal or some kind of mesh that's tuned to block the frequency that you want. Sometimes you can essentially block everything. I guess if you went into like a lead lined room, you'd be blocking everything.
Yeah.
But that's weird to me because I feel like there's a lot of environments where the Pluribi would not be able to get a signal.
Sure.
For example, the astronauts.
I mean, the range is what kills me, I guess. Like, Zosha standing on a mountainside watching a train go by miles away can, through the transmission power of her own body, what kind of gigahertz are we operating at here? Or
it does
gigawatts,
strain
rather.
The ability. Yeah.
It's
the stranger credulity, I guess. Because that's the other thing is like, if it works like we talked about this last episode, if it works like the logo does, where it's like a wave hits a particle and that wave is an experience or a qualia or whatever, a quantum of information that a person's getting and it radiates out from them and it hits the nearest person and it radiates and it kind of gets weaker. And that makes sense if you have a consistent medium of Pluribi for the wave to propagate to. But the International Space Station is 60 miles away from the nearest human being. Like what's propagating, or can a human being just transmit that far? Are there gaps on Earth? Can you get what's that most point is it Point Emo, Point Elmo, Point Nemo, where's a point in the Pacific Ocean that's the furthest away from any other living being. It's right in the middle Pacific Ocean. It's triangulated from it's even further away than the space station, if you can believe that. Like someone there in a boat, would they be able to? We don't know all these things, and also I'm not sure that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure how much of my science hat is supposed to be on, because we're dealing with technologies and sciences that are way beyond our ability to understand them already. So
yeah, I think we should be like, yo, science magnets, bitch, right? Like that's the level of science I want to interact with on this show.
Like the insane clown posse level of fucking magnets. How do they even work, man?
A level higher than that, certainly. But yeah, close to it. No one needs to be at the ICP level. Sorry.
So this is interesting because I don't know that Manny... Is your take that Manny did not see these people as individuals, and him trying to break Rick out of the hive mind is him kind of synthesizing the new stuff he learned from Carol? Or in my view, Manny was always willing to give these people, that's the reason he's keeping all the logs of what he owes people. He thinks there's a way to reverse this, right?
You're right.
I just didn't think he expected to have a way that he could test this easily and this quickly.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. For sure.
I wish he could have completed the experiment. I really wish, as he started to get and because you can hear the signal start to it gets all this weird theremin when it's just kind of warbling and waving, but you can kind of hear it returning back to the syncopation of the in that brief window. I wonder if there is a way that you could get connected to the individual. If you could do this, hey, Rick, you hear me, Rick?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, he's certainly going to try. And that's the Menuso side of this. The Carol side of this is just as interesting because she is ferociously defending Zosha here.
Yes.
This is beyond the pale to her that he would potentially cause her, Zosha, harm. I don't think she cares about so much the Pluribus, but she's not a psycho.
I don't think she's bothered by the death of random people, but the same way that we're you hear,
but it's way more personal
10,000
for her.
Yeah, 10,000 people got killed in Sumatra because of a giant wave. Jesus Christ, that's wow, that's terrible. You watch the video, oh my God, and then you go and you have dinner and you make love to your partner and you pet your dog, and hopefully those aren't all three the same thing. Like it would be the Pluribus. But yeah, like that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's that, like she's not a psychopath, but she also, you know, this is just some dude.
Yeah, and this is where I recalibrated on her, because I was thinking up to this point, this might still be a put on. She might just be trying to, you know, lull him into leaving her and Medusa alone or something. But this is not that. This is her emotionally jumping in to defend someone she views as her spouse, her lover, her whatever, someone important to her, someone more important than a chaperone.
Yes. I will say that I think it's super interesting that Carol is valuing the life of the Pluribus over the life of Manny. Like, you know, when you bring a shotgun and you shoot at somebody, you're essentially saying, I will kill you if you don't stop doing this.
Right. Maybe it's a bluff.
It kind of brings me back to the ant versus person conversation where he's like, you would protect these soulless demons over a flesh and blood person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you learned some things about Carol this episode. Carol returns to her home where she finds Zosia groggy and dehydrated, but ultimately fine. Lakshmi calls to give her a piece of her mind, and Zosia then tells Carol that the others are now compelled to leave Albuquerque for their safety once again. Carol's torn, and when Manny point blanks... Carol is torn, and when Manny point blank asks her if she wants to save the world or get the girl, Carol goes after the girl and follows Zosia.
Yeah, I was honestly a little surprised by this, even after defending Zosia so fervently. I guess that she's just willing to ignore the eventual fate of the planet. That's the thing that really stuck with me, is like all this time, and it's granted it's only like 2 weeks or whatever, but all this time that she's out skiing and bubble bathing and you know, going to Thailand and Japan, all these places with Zosia, she's like betraying humanity. You know, it's
worse than she accused all the English speakers of like betraying humanity, because like, you know, they didn't even see this as a betrayal. She did, and she's betraying humanity for a girl. Yeah, like that's like the, you know, selling out your principles for a sexual partner is seen as like kind of like the lowest of betrayals, you know, like, my God, sold us out for that. But she's doing it. She's doing it.
She is.
And because she's fooled by Zosia being an individual rather than the pinky of a much larger being that, again, and that's the other thing, is like Carol is aware of how manipulative and how the way the Hobbit, it's like one of those things where she conveniently forgets it because she wants to be in love so bad.
That's the thing. Like you said, she's convincing herself. She's fooling herself intentionally. Right. She's trying to make it appear like they are individuals when she knows damn well they're not.
I thought it was interesting that the hive mind tells her that he did give us a warning, showing that, like, you know, Manny was not insensate to the harm that he was causing. Although, like, what kind of a warning do they need? Like, hey, I'm about to scream in your face. Anybody flying in a plane probably needs to land. Anyone driving needs to pull over to, like, you'd have to give the hive mind, like, I'd say 30 minutes. Do you think I don't think of course he didn't. We saw in real time. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy drove out this house. He's like, okay, I'm going to try to make you seize now. So fair warning, and just scream, because it's like Zosia had like, what, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
Which is hilarious when she's got up and laid down in the middle. Because that's the other thing, is I thought, because Carol was starting to get emotional, and these were difficult feelings of betrayal. I thought that she had triggered it, you know?
Sure. It's reasonable. Here's the thing about Carol going off with Zosia and gallivanting across the world and enjoying herself. This is profoundly disappointing to me as an audience member, And not in a like, oh, it's bad storytelling way, but in a Carol way. I'm disappointed in Carol.
Yeah.
Because I do think that this is some sort of betrayal of humanity. And I do wonder if that is partially a test for the audience. Like, how do you feel right now? Would you make the same choice? Or would you be dead set against this? And to me, like, I think if you're happy for her, you're not a great human. If you're disappointed, you're not a romantic. Because, like, on some level, this is making her happy, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're living on a doomed planet, like that's the thing. I do think that this is a really interesting moral vacuum in which because it's not real. Like if this was real life, I could say a lot of things about Carol, but like, since it's essentially a thought experiment, an allegory that we're supposed to kind of like, explore different thoughts and feelings in. Yeah, it's tough. Maybe another episode or a little bit more time, because I'm trying to think of like, do I buy that Carol, the most miserable person in the world, wife dies on day 1 of the joining, by day 70 something, that she is going to go from wanting to reverse this and kill all the invaders to, well, I really like the Zosha one. But on the other hand, Zosha was built in a lab, essentially. She was pulled from the 7 billion possible people on the planet to most appeal to Carol, to be her fantasy girl.
True. Yeah.
Proud, haughty Raban.
And it's weird because I am super disappointed in Carol, but I also understand what she's going through. Like, she just spent X number of days, a month, totally isolated. She asks Zosha back, and now she's got like something that feels a little bit like it could have with Helen if she had lived. And like, she's getting all this stuff back, and I understand why she wants it. It's just like really disappointing because there are a lot of people out there who she's letting down.
Yeah. And it's also like, man, just the knowing that they have Helen inside of her and that they know all the things that would attract Carol and all the little things that she like. Like I said, this episode is all about reminding me that the hive mind, in addition to being very charming and egalitarian and high-minded, is just incredibly manipulative. They can't directly lie to your face or harm you, but boy, will they give you an inch and let you run a mile with it.
And I just can't help but, like, if I were in Carol's position, the timer would be running in my head where humanity starves almost entirely to death. Like, that's the thing. Every moment she spends up in the Alps is a moment closer to the destruction, or the decimation at least, of humanity. And she doesn't, I don't think it's that she doesn't care, but she's not willing to make a sacrifice in order to try to prevent that.
It is only 70-ish days, so like that is a shockingly brief amount of time to process this all as a human being. But no, I take your meaning. If because that's the other thing is they're like, what'd they say? They have 6 years of food left.
Oh, I don't remember the number.
It's something.
I thought it was shorter, but maybe a decade.
Yeah, but does that mean like, a decade at like no worry consumption, and then it falls off a cliff, and now, or is it gonna be like, we're going to try. Yeah. Like, I imagine they're going to try to provide as many people as possible with the calories they need at the beginning when they're doing all this research and development. But once they get the antenna built, like maybe they don't care. So I don't know. But it's a good point. It's a good point. I'm trying to think. It's like, is it? I guess if we were here for 6 months or a year, I would be definitely like, what the hell, Carol? What are you doing?
Or if the timeline for starvation were shorter, if it was like 6 months, humanity is essentially gone. Yeah.
And there's also might be a little bit of like, fuck those, but like, hey, let the other people, let Kumba stop being James Bond for a second and worry about these starving dumbasses that won't even pick an apple. I'm going to pick the apple that's in front of my eyes. Okay, we are now at the point where Carol and Zosha take a grand tour of all the finest spas, relaxations, and diversions a human being can engage in, eventually lounging in a ski resort lodge as they discuss Carol's current happiness. Zosha opines that this is just the beginning, which leads Carol to the realization that the Hive is not stopping their plans to convert her. Zosha admits that they can use Carol's egg windfall to find a way to fix her, and it might take as little time as a month. Carol is stunned.
There's your real ticking clock. Forget the
And it's
decades.
like, these conversations she's having where it's like, if you loved me, you wouldn't do this. And it's because I love you. It's like, I have a feeling, or I feel like that they are kind of dipping their toes into the substance abuse waters again. The kind of like, well, if you love me, you wouldn't drink, or if you really love me, you would understand that that I'm drinking and you wouldn't have a problem with it. Like, there's all these kind of like, anytime you say, if you really loved me, that is a loaded gun of a statement, because they're saying,
sure,
you can't possibly love me unless you are displaying the behaviors that I find preferential. When you can love a person in a lot of different ways that might not feel like love to them, but like you could say, I don't feel loved when you do X, Y, or Z, but you can't say, if you really loved me, you would do or wouldn't do X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
But it just guts Carol, right? That like, because the Hive comes back with it's like the parent, like your child's like, I don't want to get my tonsils out. It's going to hurt. I'm scared. I want to put to sleep. Well, it's because I love you. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
That is patronizing. And it really only is, you can only really brook with it when it's coming out of actual parents' mouths in those kind of situations for like the greater good. But hearing Zosha say it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it takes this to make her realize that this is not love, from her perspective. Like, she doesn't love Zosha. She's trying to create a person that she can love out of this hive mind individual. So, it's never going to be the thing she wants it to be, I think, is what she realizes in this moment, which is why she goes back to Manny next scene. Yeah.
And the discussion of the chemicals, which is like, what is love? And Zosha talking about this zebrafish experiment that oxytocin might have been responsible for the development of empathy. It kind of goes to develop this point of like, these are all made up things. Like, empathy is not an intrinsic thing that you do or don't have as a good citizen of the galaxy. Is something that was brought about by an evolutionary response that our genetic line found beneficial, to keep maximizing the intelligence, the cooperation, and the empathy. And other, like there's bugs out there that eat their spouses, right after they reproduce with them.
Sure.
That's a different way to live without empathy. But it's just like the whole conversation is about like, it's very matrixy. Like, what is happiness except for your brain releasing oxytocin and telling you that you feel that everything's fake and everything's artificial, and that neither Zosha nor Carol have any moral or ethical leg to stand on. And yet I'm just big oofing for Carol here because it's gotta be tough to hear.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And Ray Seahorn is amazing in this scene, with her gradual dawning horror of what she's hearing, that, oh shit, you guys are still working on it. Oh shit, there is a way to turn me still. I'm not.
Oh shit.
Clear. Oh shit. It's me. It's my own body that's going to do this to me eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately my relation, whether Helen was for it and she wasn't, like, her relationship with Helen is why this is happening.
Yes. The thing she's trying to recreate here. Yeah. It's all just so.
And this has been happening as she's playing footsie and kissy and blowing bubbles, that like Zosha has been in the entire time in the back of her mind, thinking of a way that she can end this and get, because like I don't know what they will do. I still don't know what they do when they're joined, but I guarantee it won't be going to a bunch of spas and getting massages and having the ski slopes at Aspen for your exclusive use.
Yeah. No, and it's so deeply tied to the scene where she discovers the bug in her liquor cabinet too, right? Like that's the kind of the thing that she's feeling right now is this betrayal. Like I thought we had something going, and I was operating under this delusion that, you know, you were falling for me, even though it's like completely her own doing here. She was also operating under the delusion that she wasn't being spied on by her spouse 14 years running, right? Like,
and do you think she makes that connection too for the ultimate irony of like, I put Helen in a position where I was lying to her about the things I was doing that she wouldn't approve of, so that I could continue having a happy relationship with her. Yeah, I don't know if she's there yet, but like that's the realization I had is Zosha. Like if you know, I'm assuming a lot of things about her drinking and not being honest enough about that. But like if she did that to, and I think with the breathalyzer and the cabinet monitoring, clearly was the case. That is she any different? Yeah,
good question. You know who is different, but similar in some ways. Manusos, you were talking about, you know, this love that she's trying to recreate, and you know the nature of love and whether it can be coerced and still be love and all that. And then you got the other side of the coin, which is the hatred, which is Manusos. He hates this thing that is Pluribus. That's where he's coming from, right? Carol is trying to recreate some kind of love that she had. Manusos is just writing that hate.
Yeah,
a bit of a yin and
they both have that, and like they both hated their mother for different reasons. We think, right? Unless again, I can't remember if I said this in our podcast or Pete. By the way, I'll be on Pete Pepper's season finale discussion of Pluribus this Sunday at 9 p.m. If you want to check it out, it's on Pete Pepper's page. His link should be in the show notes. Like I said, I can't remember if I said this on Pete's thing or this is. It'd be interesting if Manusos was gay as well, and that would be the reason that him and his mother had a falling out. That she was like very Catholic and, you know, very much you're good. This is hellbound type of behavior, and you got to change your ways. And him like kind of becoming this very focused. Almost asexual person in response. It's also maybe explain why he'd move away from his home so far away to get away from like the bad reputation of being a man, a gay man in a very macho culture.
Sure.
I don't. Again, that's just me taking a stab at it, but I think that would be. There's so many connections they have already.
I do think it will. They will find some dramatically appropriate way to bring them closer together, to have them identify with each other at least a little bit.
And I will say that also, I think it's interesting that even without the gay thing, the fact that they both hated their mothers and the fact that Carol's reaction to that was to go into atheism, and his reaction was to apparently cleave ever closer to his faith. You know, that's a really interesting contrast too.
Indeed. I will talk briefly about the book that she's reading, because we love to do that. When she's sitting poolside here, she's reading a book called The Left Hand of Darkness, apparently by Ursula K. Le Guin, is how I'm going to pronounce that. I'm not familiar. I've not read these. Apparently they are fairly notorious in a good way. not like they killed a cat or something. The sci-fi series books about basically how sex and gender affect culture, seen through the eyes of an alien kind of emissary coming from Earth, I guess, Terra, going to another planet and trying to explain to them essentially why they should join the Federation, and having a real hard time because they don't conform to any of the sort of assumptions about culture that we as Earthlings make. Yeah.
I heard only because in season 2 of Strange New Worlds, they had a episode that is essentially cribbed from her walking away from it's Salem, Oregon, spelled Salem, Massachusetts, or Oregon spelled backwards, or Messis. And the whole idea of like it's a short story that posits that there's a human civilization that's at its peak. There's no want, there's no poverty, there's no war. Everyone gets along. And the trick to the society is the reason they're all able to live these pleasant lives is because one single innocent child is essentially tortured in a confined, alone state, and their suffering is what powers this whole world. And when a Omassian or whatever achieves adulthood, they're taken and they're informed of this. And the vast majority of the people are like, well, okay, it's a small price to pay, and I'm not paying it for this paradise. But there's a few people who just irrevocably, this changes everything, and they leave the city, and then no one knows where they go. But like, they're the people that walk away from this deal. There's a little bit. She wrote that as well. That short story so. She seems like she does a lot of this stuff where it's all about morality. You know, like you said, this guy, he's going to a planet where there is no defined sexual dimorphism, that essentially these creatures spend the majority of their time being neutered. And then at certain times, like I think it's once a year, they develop into, they express genitalia and they can reproduce, but then they go. So this planet has no gender dynamics, gender balances, and you would think that'd be easy, but it really throws this Earth person. Like there's a lot of subtle difference about their society that keep them from having these honest communications. And
which
obviously
has some connection to what we're seeing on this show.
And also the Agatha Christie, and then there was one where one little non-joined person just fell off the bed and bumped their head. Just 12 left now. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think there's too much more to read into this, aside from like the Twilight Zone references that he's throwing in here with Sturka and whatnot. Like this is a sort of motif thing he's going for.
And then meta too, Ursula is one of the first successful science fiction writers. She was the first one to win a Nebula Award for The Left Hand of Darkness. And I think there's also something interesting. I think that Gilligan finds it probably fun that he is able to make this reference that works on a plot and thematic level, and also just as meta, like, hey, we've got a very successful female writer of science fiction. Let's give some flowers back to the OG.
Totally.
Is there anything else that I think we've kind of got all the meat out of this scene. Let's move on to the finale. At day 74, Manny is interrupted in his deep research into crystallography and radio waves, with Carol being airlifted back to the ABQ by Zosia with an additional delivery of a very large crate. Carol informs Manny that he's won. She's going to try and help save the world. He asks, "What's in the crate?" And she tells him it's an atom bomb, as the ultra badass Conquistadora plays the season out. I've never heard this song, but it's very badass in kind of a Barracuda kind of way, like a throwback.
Yeah.
And, it's about this Conquistadora. It's about, on the surface, it's about a woman who sees these things and goes and sets out to conquer them. But you become aware that these are all relationships, that she's essentially conquering men, and she can conquer any man as she wants to. So it's a very fierce girl power song to take Carol out on. Now that she has an A-bomb, if she does.
Yeah,
I didn't even consider that she would be joking about that, but maybe
could be. But I'm gonna go with it because it's a really interesting possibility. And I will say here for the timeline, this episode is a little wiggly with its timelines, and the days are marked, so we know this is 2 weeks after Manuso shows up at Carol's house, which is. They spend like a day together. So he's had a couple of weeks to start doing research and stuff. but it is only 3 days after what we see at the beginning of the episode with Kusumayu getting joined. So
yeah,
that information hasn't propagated it out yet.
Right. And it shows that Carol's, like, if we want to say she's a selfish traitor to humanity, she's only been doing it for just under 2 weeks, you know?
Yeah. And I do imagine, like, the others probably know, like, Zosha tells Carol about, like, the joining of Kusumayu, but
not when it happened, which is interesting.
Right.
She wasn't volunteering again because she probably doesn't want Carol to think too much about,
right.
Oh shit, that's still something I got to worry about, right?
Absolutely.
She's got a bomb. We already talked about that, like as a dead woman switch or just as an ultimate back the fuck off device that you want to reproduce with my brain, but if you do so, I'm going to set off this bomb and vaporize everything within 10 miles. Pretty good deterrent, but I don't know if it's more powerful than their genetic drive.
Oh, yeah. No, that's interesting. We'll see. And I assume, Manuso's studying the electronic stuff, electromagnetism and all this. I do think there's going to be an opportunity. Okay. Gilligan loves a heist. There is nothing that Vince Gilligan loves more than a heist. And there are two potential heists I see in the future of this show. One, you could potentially get Carol's eggs out of the possession of the others. I could see that being a heist she would like to do. The other being Manuso's trying to capture one of the others to put them in a Faraday cage to try and break them out of this. That could be a heist.
I could see that. I guess I wouldn't believe that the hive, because they mentioned how fragile these cells were, and I looked up in this pluripotential stem cell stuff, and what that is, you might remember this being a big debate in the public sphere 16 years ago with, them worrying about fetal cells and all this stuff. But like, this is a way to take an adult cell, any cell, blood cell, skin cell, a stomach cell, and you induce it to lose all of its adult markers and revert back to a stem cell. Stem cells are essentially what we all start off as when we're a fertilized egg, essentially, and until we become a fetus, we're just this mass of genetically similar but undifferentiated cells. Like, they haven't become brain cells or skin cells or any of that stuff yet. And that's an amazing thing to do, because a lot of people think that if we could induce those stem cells at the site of like a lost limb, that we could eventually regrow limbs and things like that. There's also like inject a tooth stem cell into the empty socket of a tooth they just pulled, and you just regrow a tooth. It'd be amazing. But like, it's also, I don't think this is exactly what they're going for, because like, this isn't, plenipotentiary cells are adult cells. We're talking about fetal cells. Like, we're already, I think this is just Vince saying it's possible, but don't think too hard about it.
And I'm not going to. I'll take him at his word.
I reject, but in a way that is without prejudice. So like, I reject it because I don't see any evidence, and I think it would be kind of dumb. But like, that's the big theory is Zosha, it's going to take a month or 2 or 3 because she's not done cooking the baby. No.
It's not how this works.
Because I wouldn't think there'd be a range there. It wouldn't be like, 1 to 3 months. Like, how a human develops. Yeah. When it would get to the plenipotentiary stem cells and yeah. And if they're that delicate and like the fate of the reproductive would they just let Zosha be out here doing? Yeah, I don't buy the pregnancy theory. If she is, it's not like I hate it. I just don't see any real evidence for it. A lot of evidence against, and I don't know, man. Just getting characters pregnant so hackneyed. But you can do it. Sure. You can do it, and I think Vince could. I just don't think that's where they're going with it.
No, I agree. I will say I think that this luck aspect of it, like, with the right tools and patience and luck, they can make some stem cells. I think this is just chaff to throw it out there for the timeline. So like, we don't have to say it takes this long to do this process, and we can still put our numbers up on the screen and eat our cake too, right? Like,
yes,
it might happen in 1 month. It might happen in 3 months. We get lucky.
Which is more exciting, a ticking time bomb that has a clock that lets you know when it's detonating, or one that just, is armed, you have no idea when it's going to explode? Like, to me, it's obvious that the latter is more suspenseful. So like having some kind of like, it's a ticking time bomb, but maybe it goes off next month, maybe it goes off in 3 months, maybe it never goes off because we mishandled the cells. Yeah, you're exactly right. They're doing that for plausible deniability.
And I assume also that all this study is how they're going to have Mundo speaking pretty much fluent English next season, because we don't want to do this phone thing any longer. Or maybe we do.
I think
They've done a lot of phone things
translating
beyond their lifetime already.
But
in this show.
It's great. It's great because it prepares us for that, and it also shows, because again, my brain wants to curl up and die when it thinks about the effort involved in doing all this research from scratch and all the testing you'd have to do, and then in a different fucking language.
Yeah.
But we know Mundo is capable of that because we've seen him do all the crazy shit for the other, like that. All those were leading us to where it's like, it doesn't even faze us that he's rolling up his sleeves and doing this work.
Yeah. And here's where I want to, I guess, give credit where credit is due to Vince Gilligan's style, because sometimes it feels overindulgent. Sometimes it feels just indulgent enough. But a lot of people last episode were very, very, sorry, not last episode, 7, The Gap, very impatient with it.
Yes.
But if you look at it in retrospect, the things that they're telling us about this man's capability to do this monumental thing that he's undertaking are directly tied to us experiencing that episode in real time. And I don't know that I enjoyed it then as much as I could have if it were a bit quicker paced, but I definitely respect it a little bit more now. And that's the thing with this show. Every time people are like getting antsy or just like, I don't know, maybe I've been trained by Better Call Saul, but I'm like, just let it cook for a little while, because they know what they're doing over there. They're not amateurs. They are expert storytellers, and they're trying to tell you a particular story in the way that they think it needs to be told. Just let them do it. We can get to the end of the season and then we complain about like, oh, this didn't work and that didn't work. Sure. And maybe they can, tighten things up or change things for next season. But man, these are not your Netflix era storytellers. These are people who like to weave a complex and deep tale, and shame on me, I guess, a little bit for getting antsy during The Gap, because I was not as harshly as some people, but definitely a little bit. Yeah. And
I found Better Call Saul extremely frustrating to podcast about, because I was not that into the material, and none of this material, if you're not into it, and just slow, deliberate pace is improved when you're watching it 2, 3, 4 times and talking about it for 2 hours a week and reading feedback and doing all that stuff. But so I get it. Like, if this isn't made for you, then it's super, like, that's the, I guess, the Rorschach test of all Vince Gilligan stuff. Like, if you're into it, it's the most riveting thing, and he could spend even more time with it. But if you're not into it, it's just like, oh my God, why do I give a shit about, these women go into all the fancy malls, or this guy traipsing through a jungle, or, like, I didn't even know why I just watch this guy eat spoiled dog food out of a garbage can. Why do I give a shit about watching for a half hour? But if you're into it, it's relentlessly watchable. So that's fine. Sure. That's fine. And I ended up really enjoying Better Call Saul. I think it's a great show once I was relieved of the responsibility of having to talk about it every fucking week. But I don't expect to have that problem with this show. And, that's the other thing is, like, I was reading this interview with, was it on Vanity, or no, it was Esquire, the UK edition of Esquire, where they're talking to him and they're talking about this particular thing, this very show don't tell, this really slow absorbing style. And he says, I've always been a big fan of showmanship. And to me, showmanship is like telling these big involved stories in non-traditional ways and trusting the audience that they're going to go along for it and not try to like bribe the audience or like treat them like a little kid where it's like, well, if you're good for the dentist, you'll get a lollipop at the end, but just like, more adult, like you're going to go get your teeth cleaned whether you get a fucking Tootsie Pop or not, because you understand the value of that. And he's kind of like that with his audience where it's like, I don't care if it's not for everybody. For the people it's for, it's really, really for. And
yeah, and I think, I don't
that
know if it
definitely
was
describes me.
I don't know if it was the same interview that I was reading, but one thing he said struck me as just right. It felt right. And it was along the lines of, it would be a real shame if every piece of media were paced exactly the same.
Right?
You want variety. You want, like, today I'm feeling like I want a high action movie. Like, I just want to go crazy. I want to do Crank today.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow you might be like, I want to go do Lawrence of Arabia, right? You don't want the same thing all the time.
How did you know my Christmas Eve and Christmas Day movie plans, Jim? Crank right into Lawrence of Arabia. Hot damn.
Yeah. Perfect.
Cannot
blend.
Wait.
It's like fried ice cream.
Yeah. No, yeah, like Viva la Difference. I'm glad there's shows like Leftovers, which had a very small following when we were doing Following the Leftovers, and has since had, broad acclaim as one of the best TV shows in this century. But yeah, I am glad, and not everything is for me, and not everything's for you, and not everything's for everybody, and I'm glad that. Because that means that every once in a while you're going to get something that feels like it's just for you. And that's what I felt like Leftovers was. It's what I feel like this show is. I'm super glad that it's got a second season to give Vince the confidence to swing this way. He's also talking, it seems like he's got a very in mind a structure for 4 seasons for this show. And I was worried about that being too long. But now that I've seen this season, I don't think it's that at all. Like, if every season revolves around a personal revelation and difficulty that Carol will face, like this, facing the relationship that she had with Helen and maybe the imperfect parts about it, and those decisions that she made that are now kind of haunting her. Like, I could easily see them coming up with one of those things. Like next year could be the effort to free one of the Pluribus. And I keep on thinking about when Zosia was insisting that she knew what was best for Carol, I kept on thinking of proud, haughty Raban and how Lucasia was forced because his lack of respect for her command to make him walk the plank. Mm-hmm. And then her desperation to get that person back. Like, it's getting easier and easier to see where, proud, arrogant Zosia thinks she knows what's best for Carol, and Carol has to send her off, has to make her walk the plank, maybe has to sacrifice her. And then, because it used to be, it's like, oh, she's going to find a way to reconstitute Helen, some kind of Helen simulation. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking, no, it's already Zosia. I that's the other thing, is like, they asked about Zosia's previous relationships without ever having to deal with the sexuality of it, and how preterm Zosia would feel about that. And I wonder if that's intentional, like on the writer's part, that that's something they're going to explore, or if it's intentional that they're showing that this is another thing where Carol's being selfish, where she doesn't want to know answers that would make her feel uncomfortable.
I do feel like we'll get to it eventually. I
do too.
I think there's too much interesting stuff there to not dig into it.
Yeah. So also, I just realized, because this whole season, I've thought Zosia's looked very familiar. And I realized that's because she was the big bad vampire villain in like the last 2 seasons of True Blood. Oh, wow. Any old school True Blood friends like, why does this crazy Turkish Polish lady, why does she look so familiar? Yeah, she was the super hot evil vampire on True Blood, turns out.
All right.
Is there anything else that we have not talked about here? I will say that we didn't talk about, like, there's a lot of significant looks at Carol and Zosia as they're landing, and it looks like a situation where they're both hoping the other will change their mind. You know, and it's been 3 days since, if I'm doing the math right, it's been approximately 3 days since Carol and her had this fight. Because I'm going to guess that when Zosia said she was just joined, it was like something that happened this day. But I would love to know, like, what the conversation was like, how much they talked on the way down there to helicopter, because they had nothing to say. It was all just significant looks and like, are you really going to do this? Are you really going to do this? And now that I know there's an A-bomb in there, some of the Zosia's looks might just be fraught with like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm leaving a 2-year-old
with this,
with
right?
the world's biggest pair of scissors to run around with. But
yeah. Okay.
Because I don't think... She's not brokenhearted. Like, Zosia's not brokenhearted. She's like disappointed, but she's not brokenhearted in a way that Carol could be.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, there's that line, you know, we have to do this because we love you, because I love you. That's just her correcting herself for the 9,000th time on the pronoun.
Right.
It's not.
That's still so hard for her to do. Anything. That's like a big that's signaling me that this is an underlying truth about this character that she's masking because Carol's asked her to.
Yeah,
like, it's very hard for her. Yeah, like, as hard as like right. It's probably be of you to like assume a brand new identity and always refer to yourself as a different name, and
like Jim. You know, if I were to change my name from Jim to
something else, what would it be? My God.
Let me ask you this. One more question before we get out of here. Is this the end of her deluding herself? Has that been finally done and dealt with, and she now gets it?
No, I don't think so. Because I hope they explore that, because that's one that another mirrors substance abuse is like the way that they always depict addiction in like the made for TV movies and the very special episodes is someone is in denial and their life is spinning out of control, and someone's like, you're got a drinking problem. And the first step at getting better is to admit it, right? Because you're like, oh, well, you're out of the self-deception. Oh no, there's so many more layers to the self-deception. And I think that they could do like, even if you just did like 4 years of Carol getting like, okay, I'm this year, I swear to God, I'm not going to get emotionally manipulated and railroaded by these people. And like by this episode 6, she's like, son of a bitch. I think that would be interesting, because that's a real human phenomenon. Like, any kind of personal development is not one step forward, one step forward. It's one step forward, it's 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 7 steps back. It's this constant. And also, once you get onto that fabled even keel, the rest of your life is a challenge to stay there. And like to look back and be, God, fuck it, how did I end up in the ditch again? What the hell? So I think, no, I don't think it would be very realistic for the end of the delusion to be now. And also, we haven't even really seen the hive mind fight dirty with its back against a wall. That's been one of the big theories I've had, that eventually we are going to see a flashback of the desperate fight in the day of joining to hold off the military. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, yeah, we've seen the hive that feels like it's in control and feels superior and is dealing with is being patronizing towards this individual. If it starts to try being tricky and dishonest and malevolent in its manipulation, then yeah, I don't think we're done. No, I don't think we're done at all.
All right, I tend to agree, but I will say the episode certainly wants us to feel like this is a turning point. Like, the title of this episode is the choice that she has to make, the choice that Manousos puts to her, and the one that she seemingly makes at the end of this episode.
Yeah,
but
the world
I agree
girl.
with you. I don't think it's over. I think this is just an inflection point where it moves into the next stage.
A question. Do you think next season any more of the individuals will join the others? Like Miss Peru here.
I don't see the point. I would much rather see them interacting with Carol than becoming part of Pluribus, because like we've seen that.
I could see someone we knew a little bit better, like Kumba. Like Kumba joining the Hive would be a big inflection point, because that's a person who really enjoyed their individuality and kind of saw things from all multiple perspectives. And also, it's like there's that ticking time bomb again. Like if Carol has got them in a back off situation with this atomic bomb, that's something that could upset the balance. The other, that the Pluribi are just, making the case. And, there's also something interesting about Kumba, who has the ultimate freedom because he doesn't have any eggs stored. Him. Oh, shit. Can they do the same thing with semen cells? Because I got to say, he's probably been leaving tons and tons of samples, viable samples inside the various Pluribi.
I have no idea if that's possible. I don't even want to speculate.
But so let's take that they're not turkey basting his his vital, precious bodily fluids. But it'd be an interesting contrast between a person who is just enjoying this to the hilt, and has all the freedom, and Carol, who wasn't enjoying it, and because she had this egg thing, she's being undone. I think there's a lot of room for those type of things, those kind of battles for people's souls and individuals. And I think there's a room for Carol and Manny to have a big falling out, and then to have to repatch things, Oh
yeah, for sure. I will say, like, as far as someone joining them, I'm a little less interested in that now that I have seen it. I do think she's had a bit of a taste of what Kumba had with her 2-week jaunt across the globe with Zosha, and she's realized how false that is. I don't know that Kumba joining them would help that much or change that much. What I really want to see, the number one thing that I'm hoping for next season, is for someone to come out and talk to them, return to being an individual. That could be interesting.
I gotta say, because that's one that might be story over for me, because if someone comes out of it and you can verify, because we got now the system, like we can have the radio frequency, if the radio frequency is absent with this person or whatever, if they come out of it and say, oh no, it was great and I just want to go back, to me, what other, unless I guess you want to say this is heroin, in which, I imagine a person coming out of a heroin addiction would not appreciate being clean and sober at the beginning. Fuck, they could always just say that it's heroin. Because I'm saying, if someone comes out and says this isn't a waking horror, this is actually really pleasant, I fully adore, and I just can't wait. I was like, and in fact, I'm pissed that you guys are bringing me out of it. Like, man, a lot of the urgency now, it's just Carol. It's just Carol learning to accept her loss of individuality because she knows it's better.
Learning to accept all loss of individuality, not just her own. It might be strictly a happier place to exist, but is it better? There's no objective better is the thing. Right. Because the same thing about the lack of morality says there's the positive version of that. There's no greater good. That's it could get interesting. I mean, it's definitely interesting to have someone come out and talk about it. Yeah. Have a perspective to the inside of Pluribus that isn't just a mouthpiece for the ultimate goal, which is to bring you into the joining. Because that's the thing. The people that are connected, we see what links they'll go to amuse and distract the humans. They'll recreate a village for 70, 80 days. They'll recreate a James Bond scene. They'll, commandeer scoreboards and do whatever to delight you. But that means you can't trust them because they won't lie, but there's just such a big gap between a outright lie and lying by omission and letting a certain thing, or letting people run with their own assumptions, because that's what Zosha has been doing for weeks with Carol. Carol just assumed that she was safe, and that does tell me a lot about Carol, that she's willing to betray the world if her own individuality is guaranteed. That says something kind of disappointing about her. But true, and probably true of a lot of people, maybe even true of me. I hate to think that about myself, but You never know. You never know until
Only a
you're
real
tested.
asshole would watch a show like this and be like, I would do everything right. This Carol person's fucking
Right.
up. If, there, but for the grace of God, no, there, but for I want to go. Forget God's grace. I can nail this moral quandary. What else we want to say, Jim?
I think that's it.
There's a couple things I want to say. Number one, we are currently in the holiday revelries. We took a break from that to cover the show that we love. And we know you guys love too. But we won't be answering feedback. We will be having a Pluribus wrap-up episode in January as soon as we get back, where we will consider all the feedback that you have for us. So if you'd like to send us some, pluribus@baldmove.com. Don't forget, this Sunday night at 9 p.m., I'll be joining Pete with a couple of his buddies to talk about this season of Pluribus. I imagine that'll be a long, raucous conversation. And then if you'd like to help support Bald Move in doing things like this show, and in the new year, we'll be looking at HBO's The Pit and HBO's Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and still doing Amazon's Fallout. There's a ton of stuff coming out next year. Help us make it. Support.baldmove.com, get ad-free feeds and a bunch of other great stuff. Final thing I want to say is Merry Christmas to everyone. Hope you all have a happy new year. And we will see you in the new year for some Pluribus wrap up and hopefully on podcasts in the future. But until then, I'm your host, Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
See you, everybody.